Welcome everybody to another episode of Bill on Bikes. We're in my facility, Motorcycle Garage in Phoenix, Arizona. As a recording of this, it is May 25th, 2025. I have my hot caffeinated beverage, even though it's going to be probably 100 out here in Phoenix today. What do we have here? 2019 Road Glide, really nice bike, and he decided to have some suspension work done by the latest guru, as they call them out here in Phoenix. I guess he's some suspension guy. And I get a phone call from a good customer of mine, and he said, Bill, will you take a look at a buddy of mine's bike? He's having a real issue. I said, yeah, bring it over. So brings it over, tells me what's going on, had the whole front end redone. Not exactly sure what's been done. Supposedly maybe dampers have been drilled and running 20 weight oil instead of the 10 weight, which, well, that's not really a big deal. Not sure what's going on with the springs. But he said, Bill, I can't go over, 30 miles an hour. I mean, guys are just taking off from me, and I hit potholes, and the front end's bouncing around. I said, really? So he brings it over, check it out. Well, I'll walk around here, and I'll show you what's going on. You can push on this front end, and I'm not really pushing hard at all. Look at it keep bouncing. I mean, it's just, we call this in the industry pogoing. It literally is like a pogo stick. And I did take it for a little ride, and it's unrideable. So I'm not exactly sure what's been done in here unless he would have to put some really large holes in the dampeners to make it that soft. And it doesn't make a lot of sense that you would put large holes in the dampener and then you put 20 weight oil in. Usually you would keep the size of the dampeners slightly, original, and then go with a heavier oil if you wanted to stiffen it up a little bit. But I don't know what the thinking is here. All I know, it's not really rideable. It's definitely unsafe. I mean, you could really get hurt on a bike that's had this suspension work done. So we're going to tear it apart. We'll get in there. We'll see what's going on. I've already told them worst case scenario, and I would highly recommend, obviously, the upgraded Legend suspension. I think a step down for that is the Progressive. He did say, yes, I would like to do the Legends if that's what we need to do. So I have a set put aside for him, and we'll go from there. So why don't you guys join me, shall you? And we'll get this thing apart. Sometimes, guys, getting this console off can be a real pain. Once you get the screws off and you remove it, you have these connectors that are connected to this piece, and you can get to the clip on this one easily to disconnect it. This one you can't. It's on the back side. You wedge your finger in between here. There is somebody out there I saw that has some plastic tool. Yeah. For me, I just undo the 2 Torx screws and just pop it right off. It's just as easy, not a big deal. And you may notice, obviously, I removed the fuel tank. I just like to have more room and also less chance of damaging the fuel tank or anything like that. So a little more time, but it's from a safety standpoint, less chance of doing any damage to the vehicle. It's just how I do it. All right, we have the left side fork leg assembly off. Let's see what they've done here. I'll clean this up a little bit. Hey, the compressor comes on. It always starts when we're doing work, video work. It's kind of funny, huh? Let's see what they did here. Loosen that up, and then I like to loosen the bottom. This makes it easier taking this apart. Doing forks is always such a messy job. I see some guys, they have protectors now that they slip over the tube, and they're all worried they're gonna get hit in the head. I mean, I've done it all these years, and I didn't need any of that stuff, so I don't think I need it now. That is not this factory damper. I don't know what this guy has done. That's bizarre. I'm gonna replace all the bushings and the seals. That's just, you hear it's the only way to do it. I'm not gonna reuse old bushings. I mean, this is not a factory dampener, that's for sure. The springs look stock, the spacer looks stock. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna call the customer and ask him if he has any information, because there's something weird here. I'm not really sure what it is, and I think it's in this dampener. Because I have not seen one like this before. So stand by to stand by, and I'm gonna go make a quick phone call. And we're back. All right. Well, the scoop is this. It wasn't a guy in Phoenix, it's some guy in California. And he's got the bright idea. Laugh at that, I said idea, not idea. My wife breaks my balls all the time because I say idea. That's my New England accent, whatever. This is a change dampener, which I knew did not look stock. I'm not gonna mention the guy's name because you guys know I'm not here to hurt someone's business. But supposedly these are supposed to be the dampering guru and make your suspension great. Well, you saw this thing pogos like crazy. This is shit. So we won't be using this. We're gonna go with the Axio from Legends, and I'll give my customer a really nice suspension. The springs are stock, that's the spacer was stock, which I kind of knew that. You know, I don't know how these guys come up with this stuff. Supposedly some motocross guy that is now into Harley suspension. I don't know. He told me the name. I did a quick look on his site, and I didn't even see these listed, honestly, for a 49 millimeter front end. He had other ones on there for like, you know, Sportsters and Diners. So I'm not really sure I'm getting the straight scoop, or they're just not on his site. So I'll keep my mouth shut as far as that goes. But if you see someone that's just selling a dampener and it's supposed to be the next great thing, I would question that, because it was really bad. Okay, so let's get going on the Axios. We'll get this guy back on the road. I think sometimes I call these Axios when it's Axio, but they're actually building a club out here in Phoenix called Axios. It's gonna open this year, but that's neither here nor there. Sometimes I will call these Axios, and I mean Axio. So let's get going on our suspension here. Really important. And one thing that gets missed all the time, preload adjustment. There's a little Allen here. You look up whatever the spec is. You need to know what the weight of the rider is. In this case, he weighs the same as I do. So we're looking at about, what did I write down here, 1/8. So you're gonna measure an eighth of an inch from right here to here. And there's a little Allen set screw. You're gonna rotate the spring and the mechanism here, just the lock, until you get it to 1/8, and then you'll notice there's a flat on the threaded piece. Make sure you line up the flat. You're gonna remove the Allen. I've already set this one, by the way. And we're gonna put some blue Loctite on here as specified by the company. This is critically important that you do this correctly. Just a drop, don't overdo it. Hey, the compressor, you're used to that. And then you just tighten it up. They don't give me a spec, so I'm just snugging them. There's not a lot of pressure on there. It's not gonna go anywhere. And that's it. I will be using Screaming Eagle fork oil, which is a 20 weight, and we'll only be using 11 ounces. So let's get these assembled, and we'll go from there. Oh, also, I use the Harley rebuild kits for the 49 millimeter. They're just the best kits out there. And I also use seal grease on the inner lip of the seal. That helps it wear in, less chance of it starting to leak, so works well for me. Let's get going. Okay, now that the preload is set, let's get going with the assembly. Make sure we install our dampening spring that comes in the kit. Slide this in position here. These are a little bit difficult to line up sometimes. There we go. Our fork oil lock, which is very important, use the stock one. Now we will slide our tube on. Again, I always keep the gaps on the bushings to the side of the slider. That way we're not putting on the loaded side. Less chance of putting a line into the slider. Over time, that'll happen. Also, what I like to do is I do use a little bit of silicone, just a touch, on my brass washer. It'd be nice if the cap actually made it so it didn't dry on the end of the tube, but it never seems to work out well. And you can see I'm using just a very small amount, and I'll put that on and around the brass sealing washer. Just that little bit of insurance. No leaks, no drips, no errors. Just a very small amount. You'll notice some of the torque specs are slightly different when you install the Axio setup. Not much, but slightly, so make sure you check whatever the instructions say and do what they want. Because we don't want any issues. In this case, the dampening screw is going to go to 30 foot-pounds. Normally with the factory I do 35 to help lock the tube in position. Makes my life a little bit easier with the slider. Sometimes it's really difficult to get enough pressure on this with the dampener isn't spinning. They don't give you any place to grab these to stop them from moving. So if I'm at 25, and then we'll go from there. And we'll see if we can get that 5 pounds out of it. It's funny, you see all the ways I've learned to hold things over the years because I've worked alone so much. Every little bit helps. There we go. Okay, 30 foot-pounds. So we're good there. Make sure our bushing is still on the side. There we go. Put a little bit of lube here on the outside, which I already have there. And we're going to install our seal. And I pre-clean these to make sure there's no sediment from a previous job, because the last thing you want to do is scratch and damage the tube. And we'll put our snap ring in. And I just want to make sure that's seated very gently around here. I make sure I push on it, staying away from the seal itself. Okay, now we got to put 11 ounces of fluid in, which is obviously less than stock. And as you've probably seen in other episodes where I do front fork, I just put a inner tube that I have here used over the tube so I don't do any damage. It's a lot to think about when you're doing one of these. You don't want to damage the customer's part. Just everything's time consuming. Excuse me if you hear me sniffling a little bit. I've just got over a pretty bad cold. Feeling better now though. Unfortunately, my wife's not feeling so great. Okay, let's put our 11 ounces of Screaming Eagle fork fluid in, which is 20 weight, and that's what's recommended. This takes a little bit of time too. Just have to be nice and slow about it. Every last drop in there. That looks good. And I like to move this just up and down a little bit, the slider if we could. Now, a little trick I do. So we don't damage the nice black anodized finish that we have here. I'll use either like a small baggie or something, some sort of Ziploc. And what that does, it will actually help us from damaging the finish. And that's always nice to give a customer back something unmarked. I also, before I did the assembly on this, I took a little bit of seal grease and I put it on the O-ring here and just a little bit on the threads. And this gets torqued to 30 foot-pounds. Double check that in there, instructions. Okay, that's that. All right, we're done our left front fork slider assembly. We're gonna go on and do the right side, and we'll get the fender and the wheel and everything installed, clean her up, and take it for a test ride. Okay, officially all reassembled. I'm gonna bring the camera around to the front end, push down on it, and let you see the difference in compression from what we had before. Okay, I'm hoping you guys are gonna be able to see the difference here. Remember before I could push it with one hand, it was like a pogo stick. Let's see the difference. Look at that, much stiffer. Just, you can tell it's just a much better working front end. So let's get it cleaned up and we'll go for a test ride and see how it works out, and then we'll, I guess, talk about what the bottom line is. What a difference, guys. What a difference. I can't tell you how nice this Axio suspension is. What's the bottom line? Caveat emptor, buyer beware. There's so much crap in the V-twin market, in the motorcycle market in general. Everybody's trying to build a better mousetrap. So there is a plethora, a cornucopia, an abundance thereof parts. And some of them are really great and very functional. And some parts, like this particular dampener, nice looking piece, it's machined nice. I don't know how much engineering went into this. It was absolutely horrible. This is the type of part that can hurt you. As many of you know, I have forensics motorcycle business. I do product liability cases all across this country. I work for judges and attorneys. I'm constantly traveling. I just got back from LA, and I see a lot of people get hurt really bad. Oftentimes it's from either incorrect installment of a part or a part that wasn't engineered correctly. A perfect example, let's say wheels. So I'm lucky enough to go, there's a facility called Independent Test Services in Michigan, just down the road from one of the big Ford plants. This is the premier wheel and tire facility, testing facility in the country, if not the world. I mean, it's unbelievable what they have in there for equipment. These giant road wheels where they can take a tire and wheel assembly and we can load the wheel against the drum, simulate going down the road at different axle loads, and we can load that to whatever they need sufficient. They test wheels. I'm not allowed to bring cameras in there that you would be able to see just for my forensics work. I've been there 3 or 4 times now. Matter of fact, I'm going out there in the next probably 2 months for more testing on something else. The reason I'm saying this is, look at wheels. There is an abundance of wheels out there. Guy has a CNC machine, comes up with a design, maybe 3D prints it or something, make sure his idea works, and they machine the wheel. And how much testing do you think goes into that wheel? I will tell you from experience, next to zero. There's a couple companies out there, one in particular that used to have a road wheel. I don't know if they have it anymore. I'm assuming they might still, I don't know. But that was a higher end wheel company. But a lot of these smaller companies, they're not testing their wheels. They're coming up with a design, they make the wheel, the unfortunate guy's riding down the road, hits a pretty significant pothole, and the wheel disintegrates. What do you think happens? And I've seen it. So that's just one example. A part like this part, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely dangerous and it could hurt you. The suspension, the way this vehicle was pogoing, as he said, he was riding with his friends, he couldn't go over 30 miles an hour. He basically had to stay behind and let everybody else go. It was installed by a guy out here in Phoenix. This part comes out of a company out of California. Again, nicely machined. And you know, people will come up with anything to make a buck. But that doesn't mean it's safe, it doesn't mean it's tested. Anything that Harley produces, you know how engineered that part is in a lot of the testing. Same with Indian. They have platforms that these bikes go on. There was one recently you could watch, I think it was on YouTube, of one of the newer Indians with the Challenger engine. And they show that bike being tested, simulating rough roads and the hydraulics that are moving this bike and bouncing it all around and just, I mean, pounding the crap out of the bike, just vibrating every component. Harley does the same thing. Your bigger manufacturers do. Your small guys, they're not doing that. They come up with an idea, or they copy somebody else's, they go buy a Haas CNC machine, they make the part, and boom, you get it. And if it breaks, it breaks. Happens all the time. I see exhaust head pipes. There's certain ones in the industry that break constantly. I know one guy called me today with a head pipe. He didn't purchase it from me, but he got it from a particular company. I'm not going to say who. This will be his 3rd or 4th one that's cracked. They keep replacing them. They're crap, but yet they make them. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, again, buyer beware. This Axio front suspension, phenomenal. It's as good as a suspension as you're going to get for a typical telescopic front fork. not an inverted front fork, but it's, you know, the Oleans, the inverted Oleans, I wouldn't say they're much better. These cartridges are just phenomenal. The progressive ones are good. They're a cheaper price point. They're about half the price, and they're good, but the Axio is really, for me, top of the line. I would really like to see him put a better pair of rear suspension on here. I don't know what he has, but they're kind of stiff. They're not very good. You could tell when I was riding, the front suspension is so much better than the rear. And for this bike to really be tuned correctly, he should upgrade to some Legends in the rear. But I'll talk to him about that. Anyway, hopefully you find this video informative. I hope it helps you when you're looking up for, you know, your next suspension, or, you know, maybe a part on the internet. It's like, maybe you question it. Maybe I shouldn't purchase this part. Maybe I should call Bill at Motorcycle Garage and ask him. I'll give you a straight answer. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching. Please like, subscribe, share it with your friends. I'm trying to grow the channel. And I'll catch you guys next time on Bill on Bikes. Ride safe.